One thing that's been fascinating me so much about the Bible lately is really studying like how it was created. And what we know about like the book of Genesis, for example, is that it was created over the course of 1500 years. Like literally it's writings from many people. You can imagine that some people wrote a whole bunch of stuff that went into Genesis, and then later other people would cut some stuff out and say, hey, this is too much detail, we need to shorten the book and all this stuff. But it wasn't actually finalized until about 500 BC, even though it started at about 2000 BC. Its final form finally came into place like 500 years before Christ, which is a 1500 year period of time. And in that time, a lot of details were cut out. And a lot of the details were actually just assumed, hey, if you want further detail on the story, then go pick up one of the other scrolls. And in Jewish history, there were so many other scrolls that existed. Right now, for example, I'm studying the book of Jasher, which is another account basically of the stories of Genesis. But Jasher tells these stories not in a way that's super orderly. Like Genesis is basically like this person birthed that person and they lived this long and then they died and they had this many kids. And it's like there's a lot of specific details there in order to basically keep this like pillar of truth going throughout the Bible. But all of those super exciting details, the visual stories, the things that bring the story to life are actually cut out because they're considered like extraneous details, right? This isn't that important to the history of Israel. For example, we know that Abraham went into Egypt, right? But in Egypt, what exactly happened during his time in Egypt? The Bible basically cuts out a huge part of that story because it's not really important. The history of Pharaoh and all that stuff, it's not important because he's not one of the forefathers of Israel. Yet for us today, as we're looking back at this story, it's no, I want to know what were those plagues in Egypt that happened? Give me some more detail. You can't find that in the Bible, but you can in these other books, the apocryphal books, which literally means the hidden books of the Bible. You can find so much more detail in there. And so if you're interested in basically learning these Bible stories over again, these stories that you've probably heard before, but in a completely new light with more detail, more visualization, more understanding, then dive into the podcast series that I'm talking about right now. Go to the book of Jasher and follow along with me because this is what I'm doing right now. I'm basically digging into the Bible stories that you know, but telling you all of the details that were just completely left out of the Bible. Go ahead, I just dropped a new episode today. You can check it out in the link in my bio.